Hey, good morning, everyone, to the class today. Welcome to the Overton Networks March meeting. This is a vision of Paul Overton to educate and update condo boards and CAMs on the construction-related topics. He's offering a monthly course with top industry experts in construction, all construction aspects. So this is an awesome presentation today. I want to thank everyone on the call today, the boards who are volunteers especially, our CAMs who are the association managers' eyes to see in the condos and the HOAs. So thank you, Paul and Gil, for speaking today. And I also want to thank our sponsors. So a little bit of housekeeping real quick. First of all, we have a chat box, Q&A box. Put your questions in there to our audience. And we are going to record the questions as well. And what doesn't get answered today, we can circulate back to Gil. And then possibly Paul, you guys together can answer these questions later. So put your phone number or your email in there as well. The other thing is, following the class, I send out a sponsor sheet. And the sponsor sheet will have everyone's contact information on there today, their name, their title, their phone number, and their email. So this is being recorded. It will be available following the webinar. And you can also forward it to your board members if you like. So what do we really know about insurance claims? Okay, I'm sure there's a lot of details that we don't know and details that are very important that Gil's going to cover. Before we do get into his presentation, I want to introduce the sponsors for today. I'm Peggy West. I'm with Beach and Patio Outdoor Living on a part-time basis, and we have full service products from new furniture to repairing furniture. We now have pre-owned furniture, and we have financing. So anything related to Beach and Patio Outdoor Living, let me know. I'll be glad to meet with you and design your new pool deck. Next, I want to introduce Katie Basford. She's the National Account Manager and IT support today for Vinteum software. Katie, tell us about yourself and what does Vinteum do for associations?
Hi, Peggy. Thank you so much. As Peggy mentioned, I am with Vinteum. I came on board in November, so it's been a great opportunity to kind of learn about the industry and work with such a great team. But I want to talk a little bit about our HOA software called Neigbrs. This is a platform that improves communication and increases transparency between the board and the residents. So if you are interested in learning more, I would love to get a live demonstration scheduled with you. Please feel free to reach out.
Awesome, Katie. Thank you so much, and thank you for helping today. I want to make honorable mention of another person with Vinteum, Yasmin Johannes. She's on vacation in her home country of Switzerland. Lucky girl. She is the marketing manager, and she does quite a bit behind the scenes, and I cannot thank both of you enough. Next, I want to introduce Suli Incolata. She's the Director of Business Development for DSS Condos, the owner's representatives. Suli?
Right. Thank you, Peggy. So yes, I am Sulin Calada. I'm the Director of Business Development with DSS Condo, as Peggy mentioned. We are a full project management company. We are your honest rep with any project that you have at your building, whether it's a lobby renovation or concrete restoration, any projects that come up out of these milestone inspections, we can definitely help you make sure that your projects get completed on time, within budget, and causing the least amount of disruption to your residents. So any project you have, we'll be more than happy to come to your site and provide you a free evaluation. I'll send you a code rather quickly. So just give me a call or send me an email. And this is a great class today, so I'm very excited. Thank you, Peggy.
Yes. Thank you for coming. Okay, next I want to introduce Hafer Company. I want to introduce Nicole Johnson Pendergrass. She is a partner and the operations manager. She cannot be on today. She's swamped with end of the year taxes, but I wanted to let you know they do have 4 offices around the state, and they're very knowledgeable, very respectable, and I think in business over 15 years now. So if you need a good CPA, give them a shout. She'll help you out. Next, I want to introduce Matt Cusley. He is an engineer. He's also a reserve advisor, regional executive director at Reserve Advisors Company. Matt, tell us about yourself and your services.
Sure. Thanks, Peggy, and thanks everyone for joining today. I'm a reserve specialist, and we do reserve studies. I've been doing them for 24 years firm's been in business for 33 years. We work throughout the country and with about 3,000 associations in the state of Florida. And we are extremely busy this year with structural integrity reserve studies. So for those of you in condominiums or cooperatives with 3 stories or more, the deadline is to have the study completed by December 31st of this year. And so I would start early. The process can take 6 months. Some firms I know are already booked for the entire year. So don't wait, and please feel free to reach out if we can be a resource. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, next I want to introduce Ben Friedman. He's the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors. Ben, you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. I apologize for no video here, but I'm in the car. My name is Ben Friedman. I am the president and owner of City Quiet Windows and Doors. We have been in business for over 40 years. We provide turnkey white glove installation services for all window, door, storefront, and railing projects. Like to thank Paul Overton for including us as always, and I look forward to a great class.
And what does white glove mean? Briefly.
White glove, turnkey white glove service means we handle the entire project in-house from start to finish, and we hold our standards to a very high level. These could be very dirty, dusty, warm, frustrating projects, but we really go above and beyond to protect the units as we work in them, protect the common areas, so that at the end of the day, we're there to do our job effectively and efficiently.
Awesome. Okay, great. Next, I want to introduce the Business Development Executive of Property Services, Heidi Larson. She's with Florida Paints. Heidi, tell us about yourself and the company.
Larson, and I'm with Florida Paints. We're a paint manufacturing company in the state of Florida. We do all coatings, from roof coatings to repaints to floor coatings to railings. Really anything that you would need to put a coat on, we have the products. So I work with the homeowners and board members, the property managers, to work with you guys through specifications on the repaints. So if you have a repaint coming up, the milestone studies come up, and then you have to repaint after all the work is done, I come into play and just help you vet contractors, do color renderings and warranties for the repaint process. We also do on-site reporting during that repaint that helps with making sure that your warranty stays valid throughout the repaint. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Awesome, very awesome. And she also works very closely with Vice Painting. And today we have Maddie Osmond on. She's the Director of Marketing Business Strategy. Tell us about yourself and what does your company do?
Hello, everybody. So yes, as Heidi was mentioning about repaints, we are the experts on that. So we specialize in exterior repaints of townhomes, condos, HOAs. We also offer weatherproofing and waterproofing services of your buildings and associations. That's important too, because it is hurricane season coming up June 1st in a couple of days. So you want to make sure your buildings are ready to go and taken care of. We also do pressure washing services of sidewalks and buildings, community maintenance, minor repairs, anything that we can do to help beautify your buildings and associations. Please give me a call and we can get someone on site, take a look. We'll walk the property and make sure that we are taking care of you from start to finish and provide you quality service. So let me know how I can help you and if you have any repaints. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, next I want to introduce Popular Bank. This is a community association bank, and the senior VP and team leader of the South Florida area is Rebecca Prieto. I don't see her on, but they offer full service, everything condos need in the whole state of Florida. So give her a shout. She'll be on the sponsor sheet if you want to reach out to her. Next, I want to introduce Brian Ramel. He is the new business development rep for United Professional Engineering. Tell us about yourself and about what United does for the industry.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us as well. My name is Brian Ramel. I'm with United Professional Engineering. We are a structural engineering firm located in Lake Worth Beach. And to clear the air on where that is, it's a little bit south of West Palm Beach for our friends in Orlando. We're focused on milestone inspections as well as concrete restoration. The firm's been in business for a little bit over 18 years. and our main engineer helped out with the Surfside collapse Senate bill documentation. So he's very accredited, and we're just happy to be here and looking forward to a great webinar today.
Awesome. Welcome, Brian. Thank you so much for getting on today. And this person he's speaking about is the principal of the company. His name is Carmelo Giglio. He is an engineer and very well known in the South Florida area. But if you need help, they're full service. That is it for my introductions. Now I want to start with Paul Overton. He's the president of Overton Construction and the founder of the Overton Network and today's moderator. I also want to make honorable mention, Paul, if I could, of Sherry Hall. She helps quite a bit in organizing and helping with your network webinars. Sherry is the vice president of business development, and please give her regards. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. I think we forgot Chelsea from Stratus Roofing.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Chelsea. Please tell us about yourself and the company. Chelsea?
I think she jumped off.
What do you know? What can you say?
Well, she works for Stratus Roofing. They are a very large roofing company, and I've actually done several projects with them, and they do amazing work. And we're actually in contract negotiations for a couple other projects. So, very good roofing company. They do some construction repairs related to the roofing, like roof to wall or stucco put back. But anyways, I know the owners very well, and I know their staff, and I've worked with them, and I can highly recommend them.
Let me just mention real quick, also, they will be presenting next month. So I apologize for not catching her, but on with the show.
Onwards and upwards. So my name is Paul Overton, and as Peggy said, I had a vision to provide CU credits or education to managers and board members and even other vendors in our industry. And, not just construction related stuff, but insurance and project management. And, I think we're going to have one coming up on paint. We also have talked a lot about SB 4D and SB 154. We've done several presentations on construction defect, which is kind of my specialty. I'm considered a construction defect expert. I give expert testimony. I create scopes of work for large scale construction defect projects. We maintain the property during the litigation, and at the end, when they get their settlement, ideally, I'm the person you hire to create the scope of work and do the actual repairs. So Peggy, I would like to thank Peggy. She's done an amazing job helping us put all these events together, and just very happy that we can reach so many people at one time. And today we have a special treat. We have Gil Schauman, and he's going to talk to us about insurance. And I went through his PowerPoint a little bit earlier, and it looks like a really, really good presentation. So without further ado, Gil, why don't you take it away?
Great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Peggy, for organizing this. Appreciate the opportunity to present. Let me share my screen here. All right. Cool. So my name is Gil Schulman. I'm a public adjuster with Altieri Insurance Consultants. We like to think we're Florida's leading public adjusting firm. Here's a brief overview of what we're going to be covering. A little bit about our company, a little bit about just insurance basics, condo requirements, and then best practices should a hurricane roll through Florida and you have to manage that project for your association or deal with a claim on your personal property. Try to make this as interactive as possible. Feel free to shoot questions into the chat. We'll try to answer them as they come up. If you think of something later and you want to reach out to me, I put my contact information in the chat. It'll also be available on the last slide. So you should have access to me whenever you need it. But let's get started. So a little bit about myself. I went to the University of Kentucky for undergrad. I did my MBA at Florida Atlantic University. I've been in this industry for nearly 6 years now, licensed in 5 states, and I presented at several conferences around the country, ranging from property management to talking to roofers about the insurance claim process. And in my free time, I play a lot of pickleball, probably too much. I'm on the mend for the next week because I've overdone it. My knee hurts. I love to go to concerts, and I'm a big foodie. So if you guys ever want to grab lunch, try a new restaurant, feel free to, shoot me an email and let's set something up. So a little bit about our company. We were founded in 1988. We're corporately based in Tampa. We have offices in obviously Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, where I'm based out of, Ocala in Central Florida. We actually just opened an office in the Panhandle. We also have a sister office in Nashville, as well as Toms River, New Jersey. We're licensed in 30 plus states, A+ Better Business Bureau rating. You can look at our Google ratings. I think we only have like 1 review from a disgruntled former employee. And basically our firm has been around since 1988, and the founder of our company was chosen by his peers to be the first president of the Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. We currently hold board seats on the Florida Association, as well as the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. The same gentleman is also the only president of the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters from the state of Florida. So we're very active through those organizations, as well as CAI, to advocate for insurance policyholders on the state level, as well as the national level, because what happens in Florida tends to spread throughout the country. So any bad legislation that gets passed here regarding insurance will next get adopted in Texas, and then California. And then after those 3 states, basically everyone else follows suit. So we are very active in lobbying. The legislation that got passed about 1.5 years ago could have been much, much worse. We were behind the scenes talking to Jimmy Patronis and Governor DeSantis, lobbying for certain provisions that lobbying against certain provisions that would have negatively affected consumers even worse than what got passed. So we're very active on those fronts, and we put a lot of time and effort into fighting for consumer rights and protections when it comes to the insurance industry. We've handled thousands of commercial and residential property claims. Condo associations are kind of our bread and butter. Last year from Hurricane Ian, we handled more than 100 condo associations throughout Sanibel and Fort Myers, and many of our associations were some of the first buildings to get rebuilt and have tenants move back in. We also offer pre-loss planning, risk management, disaster recovery planning, and we can work with you and your contractors of choice to put together a proper mitigation and rebuild plan, should you suffer damage or ever need our services. So that's enough about our company. Going to dive into the presentation here. Oh, sorry. These are the states we're also licensed in. We have a very broad reach, so there's nowhere in the country you couldn't go if you have a sister company or holdings in other states that suffer damage. We're more than willing to hop on a plane and fly out there and scope for you, or work with a sister company or a contact that we have to kind of guide you in the right direction. So before we kind of jump into the main presentation, I just want to preface this with obviously everybody in Florida has felt the impact of the rising insurance premium costs, whether it be on your personal property, an association that you're involved in, or a business. Obviously, everyone's insurance rates have gone up. Depending on who you talk to, it's the property litigation attorney's fault for filing too many lawsuits. If you ask the public adjusters, it's these insurance companies that don't want to pay claims. If you ask, the insurance company, it's all the bad actors. Basically, everyone is slightly responsible. There are bad public adjusters that push through questionable claims. There are attorneys that took on questionable lawsuits and tried to take these insurance companies to the cleaners. There's also a ton of insurance companies that don't pay claims the way they should. And there's also, hundreds, if not thousands, of weather events worldwide that contribute to the total cost of global reinsurance. So Everyone is a little guilty of driving up the costs. It's just what's happened. I'll have some graphs and data at the end of the presentation, but don't be angry at your insurance agent when your renewal comes up. They're just the messengers of bad news. They're not in the underwriting department. They're just outward facing salesperson, and they're doing the best they can. It's just the state of the market right now. So everyone's a little complicit, and that's essentially how it's structured right now. We'll touch on it later. It seems to be leveling out, and the costs seem to be, the increase seems to be slowing down. So hopefully there won't be a hurricane this year, and that'll kind of save us from more premium increases next year. They are proposing some legislation that may bring more carriers into the market, which theoretically should help keep costs flat or bring them down slightly. But we'll kind of touch on that later. So let's jump into it. The insurance cycle. So obviously, why do you buy insurance, right? It's to protect your property in case something terrible happens, like a hurricane, a fire, massive pipe break, something like that. You buy insurance through a broker or your agent. And then how do you know if you have enough insurance, right? So that is based off your insurance appraisal, and you should, your agent should be able to place you with the proper coverages to ensure that should, worst case scenario play out, you have enough money to rebuild the property and bring it back to pre-loss condition. So obviously, when do you use it, right? These are the most common insurance claims that happen nationwide. In Florida, it's obviously hurricanes. Nationwide, it's like fire, tornadoes, wind, hail, pipe breaks, arson, car burst building. I mean, you name it, our company has seen it. We've handled all types of claims. It's just any type of property and any type of damage, essentially. So what makes, condos and HOAs unique in terms of their insurability and, dealing with insurance? The main differentiator is condos and HOAs have all their common elements, and then the unit owners have their individual responsibilities. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit more. So with condominiums, there are certain statutes from state of Florida that govern your minimum requirements. When you buy a condo, you obviously have your individual unit where you have your HO6 policy or your HO3 if you're a renter. And then there's the common areas, which is the undivided interest. So Florida statutes state that you must provide basic insurance coverages to repair your building should the worst happen. Those are, yes.
So a lot of times, well, more recently, we're starting to see the developers, when they create the governing documents, they make the homeowners responsible for elements on the exterior of their building. And I don't think there's much of a problem in condominiums, but when you get into HOA and townhomes, if the HOA documents say that the residents are responsible for, say, their roof, and then there's an event where there needs to be an insurance claim filed, how does that work? Because like you share a roof with maybe one or two other units.
Yep. So it's pretty policy dependent, but most of the time, the way it works is in a non-emergency event. So let's think of like anything that's not a massive hurricane. The individual policy will cover damage to your individual unit. So individual unit owners are also responsible for daily maintenance and upgrades throughout the year. But should a state of emergency be declared and a hurricane rolls through and it affects the whole HOA, the HOA and condo policy will cover basically the fenestration system. So the roof, the windows, and the paint. an exterior of the building. So basically, in a hurricane situation, the condo is responsible. In a non-hurricane situation, individual unit owners are responsible. So with condominiums, they'll require certain coverages that'll be stated in like the total insured value, and that's just stay within the insurance policy. Here's some more minimum requirements by the Florida statutes. So it basically states that the insurance policy, the condominium needs to carry replacement cost value policy on all the common elements of the building, and it needs to be returned to. It needs to cover the cost of returning it to pre-loss condition. So, as you can tell here, says or by the developer if the improvement benefits only the unit for which it was installed and is not part of the standard improvements installed by the developer on all units as part of the original construction, whether or not improvement is located within the unit. So that is essentially stating that the condo needs to carry the coverage to replace all the elements as were originally installed. One key policy provision that we recommend everybody carry is called code compliance or code upgrade coverage. So this is extremely important for your older buildings. If you have any buildings that were older than the construction date was before 2000, we highly recommend carrying this policy because it will provide coverage above your limits of insurance to bring your building up to current code. So think of old electrical wiring, old window systems, old roofing systems. It has an increased cost to comply with that code. So, if you have an older building, this probably sounds terrible. Sometimes best thing that could happen is, Cat 1 or Cat 2 rolls through town, damages part of the structure, and then a lot of these CapEx improvements that you were planning on doing a year from now and charge assessments for, you can basically get done through your insurance proceeds by using the code upgrade coverage because those increased costs are covered within your policy. So as we kind of talked about before, the association carries a replacement cost value to cover all the common elements. Unit owners are responsible for insuring their individual unit. So it's basically drywall in is what's covered by the condo association, and all your personal belongings, any improvements that have been made to the unit, and basically all your stuff is covered under the individual unit owner HO6 policy. And the common elements are things that were like originally installed. So we're talking about fixtures, appliances, water heaters, those types of things are typically covered by the insurance proceeds. Our company, I'm going to show you this document that we have. So when we get involved in a claim, this is typically what we will send out to the HOA, just so everyone is aware of like what is covered by whom. It's this little word. Yeah, there we go. So as you can tell, there's typically two types of damage when a condo gets hit by a hurricane, and that's wind and water. And there's a lot of confusion over what is covered by who. And that's our job when we get involved, is come in and be like, this is covered under the flood policy. This is covered under the wind policy. Here's what the association is responsible for. Here's what the unit owner is responsible for. And it's a pretty hefty list, but it tends to alleviate a lot of questions that people have when they're trying to figure out, okay, is my insurance going to cover this? What is the association responsible for? There's obviously a lot of elements that go into a reconstruction project using the insurance money, but here's just kind of a brief rundown of that. So there you go.
Hey, Gil, we got a question
here
on the chat
Yes.
room. Let's see here. Would concealed hazards, for example, lead or asbestos, let's see, on the exterior side be considered a common element? And I think this is referring to insurance. There's a claim.
Yes, those would be. Why? Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that would be. Um, as long as as long as it's disclosed. There are sometimes asbestos may be, there might be a carve out in the policy for asbestos or like hazardous chemical removal and disposal. Sometimes that's excluded. It's very policy dependent, but most of the time that is covered. Yes. And
So is
then I
that
saw
covered by
another,
the unit owner or the HOA or condo association?
that would be covered by the condo in like a emergency situation. So
Gotcha.
if it was just like, something day to day that happened, that would be the unit owner. But if it was like a massive event, that would be the condo association.
So in other
Um,
words, lead and asbestos are common elements.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about is like within the paint or like the exterior surface. Yeah, that would be a common element.
Yeah, right.
So there's,
Insulation probably.
yeah. And there's another question here. Why flood insurance is required when you live on the 20th floor? Uh, uh, I believe they just passed legislation to get rid of the flood requirement above like the second or third floor for condo associations. I think it's waiting on a signature from DeSantis. It was like part of the recent legislative session. They meant to correct that. So I believe they're getting rid of that requirement. I will double check on that, but I read something on that a few days ago. So there were a lot of questions of like, why do I need flood insurance if I live this high up? I will say if you own a house or a unit on the first 3 floors, please, please, please buy a flood policy, even if you're not federally mandated to get it because you're not in a flood zone. When we were out west working Hurricane Ian claims, I mean, we fielded probably more than 100 phone calls of people who needed our help. They basically just did not carry flood insurance, and the storm surge came through and just destroyed their home or their first or second floor condo. And insurance, your regular homeowner's policy does not cover flood. Compared to your regular homeowner policy, flood is relatively inexpensive. You can get it for about $700 a year, up to $1,700 a year, and it covers you up to $250,000. So the ROI on that is massive, and it'll save you a lot of financial heartbreak should the worst happen. So I highly, highly encourage you to buy a flood policy, even if you're not in a flood zone, because we saw the devastation in Hurricane Ian of people who were not in the flood zone, and it, ruined their property and, really hurt just, their general well-being. So please go out and, talk to somebody and try to get try and get a flood policy.
If I live on a high floor and the lobby gets flooded and I can't get to my unit, do I need flood insurance due to no access?
Say that again. What was the question?
I think what they're saying is if they have, let's say they live on the 19th floor and the lobby floods, there's a flood and the lobby floods and they can't get to their unit.
No.
Do they need to file some sort of claim, or does their insurance cover them, maybe the cost that they're out because they can't get to their unit?
Got it. So the association flood policy will cover that. In terms of, I'm not sure how living on a high floor would be affected by flooding below it. I don't know if you can claim no access to your property as some type of claim. I don't think so. I mean, if there was a renter in there and they can't get in there for weeks, you can claim, loss of use or loss of rental income. But any type of flood damage to like the first floor or second floor would be covered by the association's flood policy. That's the best way I can answer that question. Let's move on. So let's jump into disaster preparedness. So one of the things we at Altieri do for a lot of our clients is what we call like a pre-loss program, where we will review insurance policies and coverages for gaps or things that the agent may have overlooked. They're looking at it, and most boards look at it as just like a financial decision. We're going to pay X amount to get Y amount in coverage. We look at the policy from a claims perspective, like what happens if you suffer damage and you actually have to utilize this policy. How is this going to play out in the insurance claims cycle? So we'll kind of talk about what to do in the event of a loss, just based on like our experience having handled thousands of these claims. There you go. So before the storm, biggest thing you can do is maintain copies of all your documents, primarily your insurance policies and any financial statements, any board minutes. Obviously, this is stuff that you should be doing anyway, but if you can, have paper copies as well as copies saved to the cloud so you can access those. After a hurricane event, it basically turns into Mad Max. There's no power, there's no cell phone service, bridges are washed out, people can't get to their properties, for a week or two. When they do get there, there's debris everywhere. It might be unsafe to re-enter the building. Every unit owner wants to get back in immediately. Every contractor from around the country is down there working, trying to get contracts signed. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of chaos. So having copies of all your important financial documents and your insurance policy just sets you up for a lot more success in managing this crisis and communicating with your insurance carriers, your contractors, your unit owners, and just managing crisis in general. So make sure you have evacuation plans and you have systems in place. Your backup generators are fully functional. Identify any potential building envelope hazards. So essentially that means anything that could turn into a projectile. So if you have a pool, bringing all that furniture inside, any trees that need to be trimmed, any windows that need to be boarded up on the first or second floor, just making sure, everything is safe and secure. Another huge point is to go around, quarterly and take pictures of your property, do video walkthroughs of every floor, the perimeter of the building, and just get general documentation of the condition of the property, because the biggest hurdles that we run into in dealing with these claims are insurance companies that won't pay for damage because they think, oh, that's wear and tear, or that's due to a lack of maintenance, or, oh, that was pre-existing damage. That was here before the hurricane. So they will use any out that they can to deny payment or limited payment. And if you're able to have that documentation and you can go to them and say, no, like we're up on the roof a month before the storm came with our roofer, here's like the condition report they gave us, that totally negates their argument. So, go through, take pictures, videos, whatever you can to capture the general condition of the property. And then make sure you have, an emergency contact list prepared. So that would be for, a public adjuster, a roofer, your mitigation company, an engineer, HVAC, electrician. Sometimes if you have a bigger property, security, because there are people who come through and loot, unfortunately, or come in and steal property. So make sure you have good relationships with these people ahead of time. You get like a priority response agreement in place. So when something does happen and you need somebody to come onto your property right away, they're able to get to you, and you're not stuck in a queue line, because in these situations, early bird gets the worm. The people that recovered the fastest in Hurricane Ian were people who had good relationships with their mitigation contractors, who filed their claims first, and the insurance company was able to come out right after the storm and get to documenting, and then ultimately, they get paid first. So you want to be at the top of these queue lines, whether it's with, your contractors or the insurance company, when they're deploying their people to, start writing estimates. So yeah, we already talked about having your vendors in place. Obviously, during the storm, if they're telling you to evacuate, evacuate. Property and belongings can be replaced. Your life cannot. So if they're telling you to leave, please leave. Fortunately, in Hurricane Ian, we worked with many condo associations who had people that stayed behind. And unfortunately, they perished. And a lot of it was very preventable, just like horrible stories that we heard. So please, heed the orders and leave. Contact your local emergency responders. So, that's your fire department, your police. Just listen to what they say. If people do stay behind, make sure you're in contact with them to make sure people are evacuated safely, and then just take any safety precautions that you're physically able to prior to leaving. Obviously, after the storm, there's a lot of moving parts. So, biggest thing is just communicating with people. Having a group chat on WhatsApp. So, a lot of associations have their own email lists, Facebook groups, Nextdoor, whatever it is. Just make sure you're relaying information to the unit owners. Make them aware, like, this is going to be a long recovery process. Not everything's gonna be fixed in a day. It's gonna be a while until they're able to get back into their units, until, insurance money is dispersed. But, just assure them that you're doing everything you can to make this process go smoothly. What we've seen is a lot of people will rush to get back in as quickly as possible, and they're pressuring these mitigation companies to tear everything out and start rebuilding. And unfortunately, what they're doing is destroying evidence of the claim. So many mitigation companies get compensated on how much work they do, so they're incentivized, right? Like, they have an incentive to go in and just tear out whatever they can and log whatever they can. You do not want them doing that until the insurance company has a chance to come out and see the full extent of the damage. All you really want them to do is make the property safe, board up, doors and windows, tarp any roof openings, and just do basic securing of the property so the insurance company can come out, properly investigate it. And then once you get the go ahead from the insurance company, then you can begin tearing everything out. But essentially, we've seen these mitigation companies just come in and they'll run up these bills, which also eat into your limits of insurance. So they'll be charging for dry out and tear out when all they really need to do is tear out. And they'll run up hundreds of thousands of dollars in these bills. And that comes off your total limit of insurance, which means you'll have less money to rebuild. So you don't want to eat into those funds. And that's one thing that we saw in Hurricane Ian constantly. And we had to negotiate with these mitigation companies to get their bills down and kind of keep them honest. So obviously, identify anything that could kill or injure somebody, any loose wires, any like loose roof tiles, just any debris, down trees, all types of stuff. Just make sure, first of all, it's safe. Then you want to, work with the county to get basic building functions back. You want to work with a mitigation contractor, as we talked about, to, just board it up temporarily for the insurance company to see. And then once you get to go ahead, then proceed with, further mitigation and dry out, tear out, and setting up dryers and scrubbers and all that. And then preserve all the evidence like we talked about. When you get back on the property, start taking photos, videos, document the condition of the property as close to the hurricane as possible. So you have that evidence, because once the mitigation companies start tearing out, it's gone. So give the insurance company a chance to see everything. We put together a post-loss checklist. So it's essentially, your responsibilities after a loss. It's providing notice to the insurance carrier, setting up inspections, going through, taking photos. There's several other things on that checklist, but you basically just want to go line by line in a certain order to make sure that everything is done in the proper sequence to ensure that you're set up for a positive claim outcome. And then, just generally stay calm. There's going to be like a lot of emotions running very high. That obviously, this might be a property where you live, or there's hundreds of people that live there. This is their primary home, right? Like they've saved their life's, it's their life savings that they put into this place, and now it's gone. So emotions tend to run very high. Everybody wants things fixed yesterday. That's just not how this process goes. So setting proper expectations with these people and, being empathetic goes a long way when dealing with your tenants. We field hundreds of emotional phone calls, and we just try to be transparent with people and let them know, like, hey, it's gonna be a long road. Here's what you can do in the meantime. Here's different organizations you can reach out to. Make sure that they've put in claims under their HO6 policies. And then we also provide kind of like small guides of what to do with your HO6 policy. And sometimes we'll take on those individual unit owner claims as well, because we're already working with the association. So, it's a long road. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the process. But they will get through it. And eventually the property will be rebuilt. It's just, the nature of the beast, and it'll be anywhere from 7 months to 2 years. It's just how these things go. So here's some examples of like life safety and mitigation efforts. So as you can see, displaced roof tiles in the bottom right. This was like a structure on the top of a condo building with these like metal support beams that got totally thrashed and were basically just dangling off the edge. Could have easily killed somebody. So we had to get a crane in there to safely remove those. So, assembling your team, like who do you need after a hurricane hits, right? You obviously have your public adjuster. We kind of quarterback the recovery for you, dealing with the insurance, dealing with the condo association board, and dealing with the contractors. So, getting the advanced funds out to you to pay mitigation, and then coming up with a plan to rebuild the property and explaining to the insurance company why they need to pay you correctly. Obviously, your emergency services contractors, so those are your mitigation companies, your dry out companies. Security, we kind of talked about looters before. Need to have a roofer in place. Getting them out there to tarp it or make temporary repairs is huge. In your insurance policy, there are requirements of what you need to do, like your responsibilities and the duties of a loss. So if you do not abide by those provisions, they can deny or underpay on certain portions of the claim, saying that you did not fill your responsibilities. And a lot of that is preventing damage from getting worse. So let's say your roof got a can openered during a hurricane, and it's been 2 weeks and you haven't been able to get somebody out there to tarp it or do like a temporary repair, and it just keeps raining inside your property, they may deny those further damages. So it's critical to have a good reputable roofer that's licensed and bonded and reputable. Obviously, you're going to need an electrician, especially with like older buildings. And when the storm surge happens, it's going to mess up your electrical boxes, your wiring systems, every electronic system in your building. So having an electrician that can get to your property quickly, work with FPL to restore power, work with your mitigation contractor to set up a generator is paramount. Obviously, you're going to need an elevator company if you have a building over 3 stories. HVAC, it's gonna get real swampy in there. So you're gonna want to get somebody out there to help get the HVAC back up and running, make it comfortable, prevent it from turning into a further science experiment. Unfortunately, we see a lot of situations where people don't do the mitigation correctly or tear out wet drywall, and just, mold spreads throughout the building. So working with your mitigation contractor and a good HVAC company to prevent that from happening is critical. So we'll go back to, preparing before the storm. We like to say, would you let the IRS do your taxes? Right? Like, no, you wouldn't. So why would you let an insurance company just, do a claim by themselves and, leave them up to their own devices? So, types of insurance adjusters. A lot of people kind of get confused on, okay, who's a staff adjuster? What's a TPA? Staff claims adjuster is someone who works for one insurance company. So that would be your Allstate adjuster is a staff claims adjuster that works for Allstate. An independent adjuster is a claims adjuster who works for an independent, quote unquote, independent contractor that gets hired by the insurance company to go out there, document damage, produce reports, work as a consultant. So the word independent is kind of misleading. They are hired guns from the insurance company. And then there's public adjusters, people like me and our company who are licensed through the state of Florida and many other state we're licensed in to represent the insurance policyholder, to prepare, document, and negotiate the claim on your behalf. We do not work for insurers. This is a government study from, I believe, 10 years ago, where they looked at claim outcomes of people who handle claims by themselves or people who hired public adjusters. And basically with public adjusters, they were able to recover 750% more than they could without themselves. And that was over thousands of claims. So we're going to talk about potential landmines to avoid after a storm. So understanding your deductibles. A lot of times with these condo claims, the total insured value might be like $80 million, $50 million. And you have a 5% or 3% deductible. So that is of the 80 million or 50 million. And you're looking at, a $2 million deductible, $2.5 million deductible. And the insurance company will come out, they'll do their initial investigation, say, oh, you have like $1.5 million worth of damage here. Here's our estimate. Fortunately, your deductible is 2 million. So you haven't even reached your deductible. We're not going to send you a check for any money. And then the association has to figure out how to pay for it. So they either take out loans and charge assessments or, get real creative on how to finance these repairs. So one of the things you can talk to your agent about is it's called a deductible buyback policy. Essentially, it is a hedge against your deductible. So if your deductible is at $2 million, you can basically buy another policy for when that deductible kicks in. That buyback policy will cover that deductible. So let's say you pay $100,000 for this deductible buyback. Your deductible will basically only be $100,000 because it's going to cover that $2.5 million. It's kind of confusing, but we've seen this more and more, especially on commercial properties with these deductible buyback policies. Kind of touched on this earlier, your duties in the event of a loss, like what are you required to do? So most policies kind of lay this out. It would be notifying the carrier in a timely fashion. You have a year to file a claim under a hurricane. So hopefully, if you've been hit by a hurricane within a year. I would hope you noticed that. So you have a year from the date of loss to file a claim. Some policies state within 60 days where they can basically charge you, they can pay you on an actual cash value basis, which is like the depreciated value of a loss. So if you were going to claim, $2 million in damages, you have like a 20-year-old property, they might be able to depreciate that by half, and they're only going to pay you $1 million. So timely notification and timely reporting is extremely important with these carriers. We talked about why you need to prevent further damage to the property, and then cooperating with the insurance company investigation. So that's allowing them on property to see everything, to be transparent, to give them the requested documents. We have seen situations where property managers or facility managers are complying with the insurance company, and they meet these representatives on site, and unfortunately they might say something that jeopardizes the claim, or they say, oh yeah, oh that scuff on the roof, or like we were going to address that, but that was there before. We have seen situations where people will jeopardize their own claim. So words matter. If you're unsure of something, when the insurance company asks you, just be like, I'm not sure, I don't know. The good thing about hiring us is we handle all the communication with the carrier, so you don't even have to worry about that. If they do call you, you can just say, I don't know, I'll talk to my public adjuster, and we will work with them. We attend all the inspections, meet with all their consultants, everything on the property we will handle. But you do have an obligation to comply with their requests and provide them with the information that they request. So limitations within the policy. We see this a lot. One of the biggest things is that some people may not understand is you're only going to collect what is under your policy. Like whatever your policy limits are, that's the most you can collect. Especially the big thing now, and we probably get like 2 of these phone calls a week, are these HO6 and HO3 policies. So a lot of these HO6 policies, especially in South Florida, have a lot of mold and water caps. It's usually $5,000 to $10,000. And what that means is if you have a pipe break, and I mean, we literally saw this maybe a couple months ago, multi-million-dollar unit in Sunny Isles, had a massive pipe break, damaged everything in this beautiful, beautiful condo. And the most they got paid was $10,000 because that was their water cap. They basically had like $350,000 worth of damage. They're going to have to foot that bill out of pocket. So, understand what your water caps are. When there's water damage, there's typically mold that can result from that. And mold can be capped at like 5 to 10. So, if you're able to negotiate those caps up or pay more to get those caps lifted, it's definitely worth it. But it's important to understand what those limits are for certain provisions in your policy. And on these condo policies, they get a little more complicated. But when we go through and do a policy review, basically break it out into like smaller digestible bullet points of, okay, here's what your cap is under this coverage, and this is what it means. Here's how it would play out in a hurricane situation. One of the big things that we're seeing now are wind-driven rain exclusions. So the argument there is just because, a hurricane may just like sit on top of a property and swirl and batter it with wind for 6 to 7 hours, just lashing it with rain, and water starts seeping in through the windows, through the sliders, saturating through the roof. The insurance company will say, well, there was no storm created opening, so we're not going to pay for that. Right. That's a wind-driven rain exclusion. So, we're able to get around it. It's a big fight, but it can be a very problematic exclusion in your condo policy, and something that you should, either have us look for or, dive through yourself. Understand that most condo policies do not cover docks, marinas, pools, any other amenities, pickleball courts, tennis courts, landscaping, unless it is specifically listed as a location or you have a policy provision stating that it's covered. These things will not be covered. With Hurricane Ian, pretty much every condo association that we worked had a pool, and a deck with like an outbuilding. They all got destroyed. They did not have coverage for it under their flood or their wind policy. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. So you definitely need to get a rider for those, or else you're going to have to, charge assessments to fix those. Usually when we get involved in a claim, there's enough money left over that you can, use those insurance proceeds to make those necessary repairs. And then we talked about storm chasers. So this is like a massive problem. We talked about the runaway mitigation bills. A lot of people are coming from out of state. They might not even be licensed. They might be licensed and bonded under like another company based out of Florida. So make sure whoever you contract with to do any type of work has an office in Florida, has people in Florida. They have positive reviews. You vet their past clients, and you ask questions, and just make sure that if something does go wrong, you have the ability to sue them or collect money from them, and you have recourse. I can't tell you how many times these people have jeopardized claims or screwed over an association and then file a lien against their property for unpaid bills of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like we've seen it way too many times, and it's kind of a scourge in the roofing and restoration industry. So what to do after a storm? We talked about like not panicking, not engage with anybody that hasn't been properly contracted, that you haven't had like a formal meeting with. Don't just rush to sign with the first person who comes knocking. Just because Chuck in a truck shows up and they've got a couple scrubbers and extraction machines doesn't mean they're going to do a good job. We've seen it all too much. We talked about not providing too much information right away. Make sure you're documenting, tracking everything, keeping logs of who came out to the property when, especially in the first few weeks after a hurricane event. You just want to create a daily log of events. And then we talked about not starting remediation without properly documenting everything, or working with like a public adjuster or an attorney, to get proper approval from the insurance company to begin, a larger remediation process. So, just to kind of recap, what are the steps to managing a successful claim outcome, right? So obviously, pre-plan, assemble your recovery plan ahead of time. We work with associations to kind of develop that, get your contractors lined up, get some priority service agreements in place. Next would be, how quickly can we get, basic function back to the building? Like how soon can we get people back in, get power, get plumbing, get some HVAC going through the structure, right? Like that's the next most important part to a successful claim outcome. And that's obviously based off, safety is paramount. Being in the know. So ensuring that, your association boards and then all the tenants are aware of what's going on, when is reconstruction going to begin? When can they start moving stuff? And when can they go see their unit? When's the insurance company going to come out and investigate everything? When is payment going to be released? When's reconstruction going to start happening? So, it's one of those situations. These hurricane recovery situations are something that can even, be make or break for an association renewing with your service contract. So, if you're a rock star and you're handling this as best you can, they're going to be loyal to you forever. We've also seen the opposite where an association manager quits like a week after the hurricane hits, and they're nowhere to be found. The property management company can't replace them. They botch the recovery. The association's mad. They file suit, or they just don't renew the contract and hire somebody else. So this is massive for renewals. Last, managing your insurance proceeds. So the way we deal with boards is, and the way we kind of frame it is, let's identify your priorities of, what needs to happen first for the for the association. Like, what do they need right now? Let's make a priority list, and how do we tackle those things, and getting what's called an advance payment from the carriers as quickly as possible is our top priority. So we come in and we send them like an initial report of, this is not our full scope, but we anticipate, just based off these preliminary numbers, this claim's gonna be $10 million. Their mitigation bills are already at like $700,000. Can you release payment of like 1.5 so they can pay these people and begin like this roof that we've already agreed to? So let's move forward with what we can while we like in the proper time frame. And let's manage the money as it comes in. How do we predict, what else they're going to pay? So we kind of outline that for everybody. And then also, just the way some of these claims get paid out, they might pay above the market value on a roof, but you have this like pool project. So, if you work with the right contractors, if you have the right vendors in place, it's up to you how you spend your money. It's your money. You can spend it however you want. That's a common mistake that a lot of people don't understand is just because the insurance company gives you your scope of work and pricing, that it doesn't dictate how you repair it. So it's up to you what you want to do with the money, and you can basically GC the project yourself and allocate money to different projects that is different than what the scope that they paid you for shows. You do have to, make the repairs. If they pay you for a roof and you don't make the roof repair, and then, a hailstorm hits in the spring, you're not going to get paid for that roof again. So just be aware of that. We always recommend, hey, you don't need to make a profit on this claim. Like that's insurance fraud. The goal is to get your property to pre-loss condition using the money from the insurance proceeds, so you don't have to charge assessments or take out a bridge loan, or pay interest on money from a bank. Like managing your insurance proceeds is critical, and we're very good at just guiding associations through that process, getting initial money and avoiding having to charge assessments or fees for the association to make up that gap between what insurance paid and what the contractors can do the work for. And then, doing the work. So making sure when these companies come out and make the repairs that they're doing good work, that they're properly installing a roof, that there's no issues with the repairs, that they're complying with code. They're bringing your building, up to date, and it's, back to or better than it was before the storm happened. So that's what we consider, a proper, successful claim outcome. And here's just, some more bullet points on, the importance of a proper recovery, right? Like as property managers or community managers, you have responsibility to the owner to maintain the value of that property, right? Of that asset that you're managing for these people. So any damage diminishes the value of that structure. You want to maintain that business continuity. So you want to maintain that relationship, handling a claim successfully. When other associations haven't, when they're looking to renew those contracts and they start shopping around, they're going to think and they're going to ask, who did a good job? People will either love or hate their association management company. So, this can be make or break time for you guys. Reputation management as well. Then you also have the compliance and legal obligations that are associated that we kind of talked about before. You have that fiduciary responsibility. You also have the responsibility within your insurance policy to report the claims. And then, you can also end up getting sued for, botching the recovery or not filing a claim or not acting in good faith with your clients. We are dealing with a situation that we were made aware of about 2 weeks ago of an association that had a massive pipe break, and they refused to file a claim, even though it affected, 3 floors of this older building. And by not doing so, and not properly mitigating, they're probably going to have a massive mold problem. And they're forcing the individual unit owners to, file claims under their insurance policy. It's going to be a mess. They're probably going to get sued. It's just a bad situation. And then, long-term sustainability. So, preserving the condition of the building, preserving the life, extending the life, and just making sure, that it's, it's going to be a valuable asset in perpetuity. So now we're kind of going to go into, what to expect. And as you can kind of see, there's basically a chart of the last 30 years. You can see that the number of events annually is going up. The variety of events is going up, and the cost of these recoveries is going up. Cost goes up just because, people are building larger, more expensive structures. Cost of labor, cost of materials, that's all gone up. So that all factors into, the general cost of reconstruction. So it's just, no pun intended, a perfect storm, where, you have more events and they just cost a lot more now to repair. And it's just going to keep happening. Here's an example from 2022 of all the different events that happened throughout the country. We talked about how, the global cost of reinsurance has gone up, right? Like the hurricanes in Florida drive up the cost for for policyholders in California. Wildfires in California and Colorado affect, global cost of reinsurance, which in turn affects your premiums in Florida. That's just how it goes. Like the global cost of reinsurance goes up, everybody collectively is going to have their premiums go up. It's just the nature of the beast. So kind of.
Was that just in last year? Excuse me. Was that just last year?
This was 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh, 1 year.
Yeah. So 1 year. Wasn't able to find the 2023 information. I believe 2022 was the worst year for climate disasters. Hurricane Ian is going to be the most expensive, costliest hurricane in the history of the United States, surpassing Katrina and Sandy when everything is fully settled. The fires in Colorado and California were also very damaging. So I believe last year's total went down, but it's still very high. So here's some examples of claims that we've worked from Hurricane Michael. Insurance company initially offered 3.9 million. We came in, we were able to get them an additional 12. Here's another one from Hurricane Ian, where initial offer came in below deductible. We were able to sell it at $15 million. So, these insurance companies, as the claim dollars get larger, they're going to fight harder to not pay it. So, they're going to put up a little bit of a fight on like a home with $100,000, $200,000. But once it gets like, you're talking millions of dollars, they're going to start bringing out engineers, consultants, whoever they need to bring out to justify their position to like not pay for something. And unless you have people that are extremely experienced in handling large files like this and experience in understanding like what goes into a condominium policy, it's going to be very hard to get the money you actually need to make those repairs. Here's another one from Hurricane Zeta. Initially got $50,000. We were able to get them 4.2 when all was said and done. And then, just day-to-day stuff that we've worked. We handle commercial, residential, condo associations. This was a fire in Fort Myers. Initially got 150,000. We were able to get them $3 million, right? And when you're talking about commercial stuff, there's business continuity, there's loss of inventory, lost revenue, relocation expenses, all that factors into those, and those get real complicated. And that, that's where our expertise comes in. Here's another one from like Hurricane Michael in Panama City. We're able to take it from 100,000 to 5.5 million. This was an HOA complex in Iowa. Somehow $3,000. I don't know how that's possible. 1.8 million. And then, your regular just, tree fell onto a house. So, insurance companies have an incentive not to pay. It's on you to provide the information and justification for what they need to pay and why. And that's what we do. They're not going to just fork over money. There's a lot of provisions in a policy that people are unaware of that of money that they're entitled to, but you have to claim it and you have to justify it. They don't just, they're not just going to fork over money. And another thing you have to understand is in these large scale disaster situations, when there's tens of thousands of claims, you might have one adjuster handling hundreds, like I'm talking like 200 to like 500 claims. So they're not going to spend the time that they need to properly investigate. They're going to quickly walk through the building. They're probably going to, snap a bunch of photos, but they're not going to give it the attention that it needs and look at every single small detail. So that's our job. And that's how we work with the association to make their job easier. Like, hey, you have 300 other associations you got to work with. Here's our information. Here's our reports. We're basically doing their job for them, and it makes their life a lot easier. And we maintain very good working relationships with these carriers, which goes a long way into getting timely claim payments, fair claim payments. These insurance companies keep documents and reports on every roofer, every contractor, every public adjusting firm. They know who's fluffing numbers, who's writing legitimate estimates, who's trying to pull a fast one, and you build a reputation with these carriers, and it can make them more apt to pay or less likely to pay. And we're very proud of the fact that we're well respected among those carriers. Most of our adjusters came from insurance companies and now work for us. So you may have met my colleague Pete Sowistral. He was a carrier adjuster for 9 years. Looks like we have a question, I believe. Okay, so I guess we'll kind of go through here. During evacuation because of hurricane, several owners do not leave the building. What is our responsibility if there's no power and water service to those owners? As long as you went out of your way to address them and tell them to leave, you did everything you could. At that point, it's on them. You are in no, you don't have any responsibility to restore power and water service to them like immediately. That's on that. Like, as long as you make a good faith effort, like, hey, we try to get it, but like the city won't allow us to turn it back on, which is the case in many instances. You did your part, so you don't really have any responsibility to them in those situations. Yes, Peggy?
Yeah, I have a question. I
Yeah.
know some other businesses that have like where you pre-sign up for your services as a priority customer. So when the, fit hits the shan, you have in place someone like yourself that will, do you guys do that as well?
Yeah, we have priority response agreement. It's just within our pre-loss program. It's not like legally binding, it just bumps you at the top of our queue.
Okay.
We'll go out to your property right afterwards. We had access to like boats, helicopters, whatever. We're able to get out to these properties immediately after these storms, and we've brought property managers onto the island when nobody else was able to get onto Sanibel Island. Just to do an initial walkthrough, give initial reports back to the association. So yeah, we'd love to sit down with you, talk about how we're able to help ahead of the storm, and then we obviously would love the business after a storm hits, but not every situation requires a public adjuster. We turn down a lot of work. There's a lot of situations where if we can't bring value, we won't get involved, but we ghostwrite a lot of emails for people. We'll kind of explain to them what to say, how to deal with like a smaller claim, depending on what the deductible is. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to file a claim. It's like, if it's water damage and you got a $12,000 estimate for repairs and your deductible is 10, that means you're only getting 2,000 and it's going to be on your claim history. That situation, you might be better off just like, paying the 12 and going on with it because it's going to jack up your rates. So we just try to advise in any capacity that we can. We appreciate any business that we get, but we just try to guide people in the right direction based on their situation.
Somebody asked if you can make this presentation available for them. Is that possible?
Yes, I can share it. I will send it out as a PDF. I can get that to you, Paul and Peggy, and then we can send it out. That's easier to whoever wants it. So yes, I can make that shareable.
And what is a TPA?
A TPA is a third-party administrator. So that is basically an independent adjuster. That is somebody who's contracted with an insurance company to go out and perform inspections or a certain scope of work based on whatever their contract says. Typically, they do not have the authority to cut a check to anybody. The check usually has to come directly from the insurance company. So TPA is just basically like their eyes and ears sometimes, who does an initial investigation or just goes out for a particular scope on a project. But they don't control any money. They don't have the authority to approve a payment or to make a coverage decision. They just go out and perform some type of investigation for them.
Wow, Gil. Usually all these processes are done before I get involved. The people, they already have their money, the disaster's over with. This was really,
Yep.
really good. And I think everybody attending today is going to really appreciate that. We've gotten, some really good comments, that this was a very good presentation, and we can tell that you know your stuff. And did you put your name and information in the chat room so people could reach out to you?
Yeah, I put it in at the very beginning of the chat. I will put it back in here again real
It'll
quick.
be on the sponsor sheet, you guys.
Yeah, and
Sponsor sheet.
yeah, here, let me just type it in real quick.
Ben wants you to know that you crushed it, Ben Friedman. So
thank you, Ben.
Yes, you did.
Just tell Steve I did a better job.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure Steve knows. Yeah, really, really good job, Gil.
I already told him.
Okay.
Oh, you did great.
And then real quick, here's just kind of our pre-loss program. Any ongoing claims you guys might have, any situations your property, happy to review them free of charge, give you some guidance. As we talked about, we do another CE course. We do preparedness seminars at your HOAs or condo associations to go over, basics of your HO6 policies, HO3 policies, talk about priority response and a disaster playbook. So we'll, put that together for you. Here's all my information. I'm based out of Fort Lauderdale. Again, we have offices all over the state, so wherever you may be, we're there. You can also add me on LinkedIn. I try to post as much stuff as I can, and just try to provide valuable information. So yeah, happy to be a resource whenever I can.
Are you willing to go golfing with clients?
Yes. If you guys want to go golfing, let me know. I have a corporate Amex, so happy to use it.
There you go. I wanted to throw that out there because I know you like to golf.
Yeah, I'm not very good, but I like to go out there. So.
Me too.
Let's real quick. I think there were a couple more questions I'd like to answer here. So it says during an evacuation. Okay, we already talked about that one. Can we have access to that list you put together? Yes, I can attach that to the presentation and send that out. Can you do initial needing repairs before insurance answers the claim? So I believe the question is, can you do like initial repairs? So like key repairs, if we're talking about like, boarding up windows, patching a hole in a roof, stuff like that. Yes. Anything major, do not do until insurance as a company has had a chance to see it. Do you still have to obtain 3 bids during emergency repairs? Insurance company will probably request 3 bids. That's a little bit extreme. That we get around that all the time. So unless you have what's called a managed repair program in your policy, right? That MRP, as it's called, requires you to use like a contractor vendor like a ServPro or like a Paul Davis. there's otherwise, there's nothing in your policy that states you have to use whoever they say. It's up to you what contractor you want to use, and what you want them to do. So we will usually we submit our numbers. We'll work with a contractor to submit their numbers, and that's usually all you really need to submit. So that whole like 3 bids thing is kind of garbage generally. It's just, they're just going to approve the cheapest bid. So most of the time the 3 bids fall within the same range. I mean, I have seen it vary drastically, but it's up to you who you want to use, and don't let them kind of strong arm you into using a preferred vendor, because they have like negotiated work rates before, and they don't always do a good job. So my opinion on parametric windstorm insurance policies, claim payment dependable. So this probably, I think parametric insurance is probably going to be the future of insurance. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what parametric insurance means, it's basically very cut and dry policies. So for like a wind policy under a parametric insurance policy, it would be clearly stated like in a category 2 or greater hurricane, we will pay $10 million, and that's all it says. Or if your property is affected by fire, we will pay $1 million. It's like very cut and dry, black and white. There's not really room for negotiation. I think it's grown in popularity. I've talked to somebody about it. Like they don't really do it for condos, more for like commercial property. But I think that's going to pick up a lot of steam. As public adjusters, it's not good for us because like it's so black and white. There's no gray in these things. So my boss will probably kill me for saying that like parametric is the future, but it's just the truth. What are typical prices? I'm
While
assuming
you're
that's
seeing these questions, I can't see the questions that you're reading. I'm looking in the chat room right now.
oh,
That's weird.
yeah, maybe they were just directly to me. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. So it says, what are typical prices? I'm assuming, okay, if you're talking prices on like parametric insurance policies, or I don't know. It's all dependent on the property and what you need to insure it for. Typically, if they're asking like what our typical fee is for what we charge working a claim, typical fee is 10% of the recovery. That's like start to finish. If it's a situation where we've already been given $1 million, we'll come in. We don't take off any money it's all new money. So unless we're able to generate dollars for you, we don't get paid. So it's 10%. We usually, we'll drop our fee. The larger claim is, it's all negotiable, but standard is 10%. I believe that was all the questions. So I think that's everything for me. If anybody has anything else.
Paul?
Great presentation. And thank you for everybody for joining us. And everybody has Gil's contact information, hopefully. I know that this is a very good company. I have several, business associates that work here and have a very good reputation. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thank you again, Peggy, for helping put this all together. Did an amazing job. Thank you to all our sponsors. And that's all for me.
Yes, I just wanted to say it was amazing information, more pieces and parts than I ever really thought about. So it's glad we'll be able to share your slides. And the message to me was plan for the perfect storm. So, sign up with Altieri for sure. And Gil, I ditto the same thing. Thank you, Gil. Thank for all who attended. Thank you, Paul, and the sponsors. CAMS, please allow 2 to 3 weeks for Altieri to get your credits posted with the DVPR. You will get a 2-hour credit today. And upcoming webinars, I've got April 17th, Stratus Roofing is giving their presentation. April 24th, I have the paving lady coming to talk about road work and paving remedies. And also April 30th, targeted tentatively for another Overton presentation. Hopefully it's going to be on project management by DSS or possibly reserve advisors giving a presentation on reserves. May 15th, I'm also having a hurricane summit, and then June 1st will be hurricane season. So hopefully you'll join us for all of those or many of those. So watch for the flyers. And I just want to say, everyone have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.